Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Jennifer Spor is back on again. I'm so grateful to have her back on. I think we spoke 5 months ago. It was episode, I believe, 159. Definitely tune into that one. But we just wanted to share more about the Akashic Records. And so I brought her on back. Jennifer, thank you so much for being on my show. If we can just start off by you just introducing yourself and what you do.
Sure, sure. For those who haven't watched the first episode, the first time I was here, my name is Jennifer Spor, and I'm a spiritual mentor, channel, and a multidimensional healer. And I support a lot of other visionaries and healers, people who also have, something that they're being called to, right? Like a greater purpose and mission. And I also specialize in the Akashic Records as a master consultant and teacher. And today, that's actually going to be the focal point of our conversation here, is to dive into the Akashic Records because they really are beyond even a modality. They are considered a modality, but they are actually an aspect of our being. So we all have the ability to tap into those. And that's why I'm super excited that Gina has asked me back today to speak on a deeper level to all of that. So thanks, Gina.
Yes.
It's awesome to be back.
My pleasure. And yes, the first question I want to go ahead and ask is if you can just go ahead and share your journey. And then also, if you can let the audience know what inspired you to dive into this spiritual practice.
Yeah, I love this question because I believe our journey, there are so many catalyzing events or big events that happen on our journey as we're always on a path of evolution, basically. And so I'll start with really, I would say, what was my first tremendous spiritual awakening, which was really about, I mean, it happened probably about 15 years ago at this point. I know I'm dating myself, but I had a whole other career, before I did the work that I'm doing today. And I checked off the boxes off the list of what traditional, 3D society teaches us that it means to achieve success. And I did love my career in retail for a long time. I worked in that industry for like over 23 or so years. And I loved it for a long time. What I realized is when there were no more promotions or no more boxes to check off of the list, I really started to wonder, what was next. That's when I often say that the fog, started to lift. I think what kept me there for so long was because of my joy of helping other people, of being of service to other people. And I say about that part of my life as well, that it's like I was dating my purpose and not married to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was trying to find fulfillment in a space that, looking back on it, really wasn't going to fulfill me, completely and long term. So, like a lot of other people I know can relate to this as well. When I had this awakening and started really to wonder, wow, what I thought I was going to be doing forever doesn't seem like it's going to be the case anymore. And so what's next? I didn't take action because I was scared. There was a lot of fear around, being so established. Where else would I go? Could I have the same income and maintain the same lifestyle and have the same kind of thing going on? And so I didn't take action right away to change careers. What I did do right away, though, is embarked on this journey of rediscovery, really. And I say rediscovery because what I realized during that time is that I didn't really know who I was. I realized that in my high level leadership role that I was in a corporate director role, I was on a lot of the time in my job. There were a lot of fires constantly to put out as I used to oversee store operations. So as you can imagine, retail, there's a lot.
Totally.
But I realized between all the time that I spent focused on my career and then even outside of my career, I much of the time went along with, what everyone else wanted to do. I really wasn't feeling super clear on, like, I knew I was a good person and integrity and truth was always important to me. And I had always had a strong connection in my faith, spiritually, so, transcending religion. I knew that, but I really didn't know. It's like, who am I? So I embarked on this journey of rediscovery, got into meditation, which was my first real big portal into really unlocking myself, my remembrance of who I am at a soul level. And so I got into that. And then it was like a couple years later, probably a year and a half, 2 years later, my mother at the time was living on the opposite end of the country here in the US, and she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And during that time, I was flying back and forth a lot, just trying to manage my day-to-day life and also spend time with her and my family while she was still here. And there was a moment when I was sitting at her bedside, literally just a few days before she passed. And this moment, I remember it as clear as if it were yesterday. My phone started blowing up from work, with an issue. And for probably the millionth time, I found myself very consciously in that moment present to the fact that I was being given a choice. Once again, it's like either direct my energy to something I knew that I wasn't happy with anymore, right? Or direct my energy to being present with my mom and knowing that that was going to be one of the last times that I actually saw her here on the earth plane. So that was the moment where my courage exceeded my fear, and I made a conscious decision that I have no clue what's going to happen on my path moving forward, but I'm done. Like, this is the end of this current chapter of my life. And so I ended up, it was a process. I ended up stepping down from my executive role voluntarily because back then there wasn't a remote work culture like there is today, right? So I had to choose because I wanted to be closer to where my family was after my mom died. So I had to choose either stay in my career or step down and move and find something else. So I chose to step down, and I also say, much like the lyrics of a country song, because you got to have a sense of humor. I rented my house out at the time in New Jersey and packed up my car and headed out west to Idaho. And that's where I've been. I moved back to Idaho 10 years ago, and I didn't know that I was going to have my own business and do the work that I'm doing today. When I took the leap to leave, I only knew that I had to come out here. And so it was during that time of awakening and that time of tremendous transition in my life, my own journey, that I realized what I was being called to, that I was being called to this work. Specifically, during that time, I invested in a lot of support, right? Like traditional therapists, healers, psychics, coaches, all the stuff, all the people. And I realized at that time what I couldn't find actually was someone who could hold space for me, who could relate to the awakening and the transition I was moving through, and also help me to actually integrate and embody who I was becoming in navigating how that was impacting, right, my physical life and my relationships and everything that was happening. So that was what inspired me to do the work that I'm doing today. And that was the first of a lot of big changes.
Wow. Oh, my condolences about your mother. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to lose a parent. I mean, I lost my father, but I was just a baby, so I don't know what it's like to experience the loss of a parent. So my condolences. But
Thank you.
I am very happy that you chose the path that's aligned to your purpose. rather than having to live, the conditioned way. I think we talked about this is like people are not loving their jobs anymore and just tired of that hustle and grind mentality and just really want to get back into their soul purpose. And that's why I love the Akashic Records. And I wanted to ask you, what was your first experience accessing the Akashic Records, and how did it actually transform your life and understanding yourself?
Yeah, in my own experience and that of many other clients that I've supported and just other people that I've come to know, the Akashic records tend to call to us. We feel drawn to them, right? So at this was several years ago at this point, but at the point that I started working in the Akashic records, I had already trained in several other modalities and had been in meditation for a long time. I trained in Reiki and light body and was already coaching and providing intuitive support to clients. And the Akashic records, it was interesting because I first got turned on by them through this tarot card deck that I had bought because I love oracle cards.
Yeah,
Tarot cards, they're just super fun. They're
they
super
are.
fun to play with and to a super fun way to receive guidance. And so there are these Akashic Records tarot cards. And I was really attracted to them because they were so intricate and so detailed. And I just love to learn. I'm like a sponge. So I started playing with those cards and then I ended up finding this free meditation through this hypnotherapist on YouTube, which was just like a really high level uh, going into your Akashic records. So I listened to that. And then after that, I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to work in my records on my own and start going into them. And so I did. And then I ended up, another mentor that I used to work with, she at the time was offering like a 9-month mastery program for the Akashic Records. And so I entered that program and went a much deeper and ended up becoming certified as a master consultant and teacher. And since then, I've evolved beyond that and created my own. It's called Ascension in the Akasha, but my own spin on teaching the records, which is a blend of that and actually learning how to access your records to navigate your own ascension journey as well. So that's the high level of what led me to that.
That's awesome. Now, for those listeners who have not heard our previous episode, can you go ahead and explain what the Akashic Records are and how they function?
Yeah, in the simplest of terms, the Akashic records are like the storehouse of information for our soul, the like a library. A lot of people visualize them as a library. Um, where there's just limitless information. The Akashic records hold all of your soul's experiences since the dawn of its existence, right? So I assume that many of your listeners know that as a soul, we are an eternal being, right? Having a human experience, and our soul has had many incarnations before this one. And for that matter, many incarnations after this one. So working in the Akashic records is also working with who you are multi-dimensionally, right? Because linear time is really an earth plane thing. We already exist in other lifetimes and in other spaces and places, beyond this one. So you have access to all of that through accessing your Akashic records. And via accessing all of your soul's experiences, you also have access to the record keepers, right? Who are like guides and guardians of the Akashic records. And you can also connect with your divine support team at a deeper level as well when you're in the records, because the Akashic records are a different space of consciousness, a deeper frequency of consciousness that allows you to gain more direct access to yourself at a subconscious level. And because of that, they're very effective for quantum healing, right? Another thing that, in traditional society, we've all been taught that it has to be this years long journey of getting to the bottom of something before you finally heal from it. And that's not true. Sometimes there is a journey of healing, but the length of our journey, honestly, is directly connected to our own free will willingness to allow ourselves to release what no longer serves us. So that's the records in a very high level explanation. It's pretty expansive. I mean, the opportunity for expansion is honestly limitless.
Right? That's what it feels like.
It really is. It really is. It's really big. And the Akashic records have been hugely transformational for me on my personal ascension journey and for, my business as well. My business is really a vehicle for the greater mission and work that I'm being called to, right? To be of service. But you can access your records to navigate any aspect of your journey, your business, your ascension journey, your relationships, your healing, whatever it is can be accessed there.
Yes. Now, can anyone learn to access the Akashic records, or do you feel like it requires a certain like spiritual path or mindset?
Yeah, the truth is anyone can access their records. And I explained on my own journey, right, how I was being led to that. If someone is feeling guided to take the DIY approach to initially accessing their records, the only thing I would say about that is very simply ensure that you're neutral in a neutral place when you're accessing your records. Because if you're already feeling fear or you want to access information from a place of desperation or frustration, then the information you might receive will be skewed because of your own emotional attachments and interference, right? So just accessing your own records when you're feeling in your spiritual leadership, when you're feeling neutral in your energy, and setting an intention. You can simply set an intention once you're in that neutral space to call forward the Akashic record keepers and your guides along with your highest self in the highest frequency of divine truth, love, and light, asking them to come forward and to support you in your guidance and healing. And then please open my Akashic records now, and your records will be open. And then asking whatever questions you want to ask, experiencing whatever you want to experience in there. And then at the end, making sure that you express your gratitude and then ask for the records to be closed. That's really important because if you've listened to hypnotherapy or deep guided meditation before, sometimes you see those warning labels, right? That say, don't drive while you're listening to it's the same thing in your Akashic records because you're in this deeper state of consciousness. And so it's really important to have those infrastructures in place. Now, you can do that yourself where it's beneficial, and I recommend receiving training and guidance is that you can learn how to go deeper and deeper and deeper in your Akashic records through working with someone who can teach you how to access and heal past lives, how to access future versions of yourself to manifest your desires, how to get to the deepest root cause of whatever you feel like is holding you back in your life. that's where I recommend that you receive training. And I still offer private Akashic Records readings, which are available on my site. I do have, for those who are interested in working in their own records, I have an online self-study course, Ascension in the Akasha, where you can receive all of the training that I've been talking about here, and if you feel guided, you're able to connect with me after the course completion for a private Q&A as well. So yeah, there are lots of different ways that you can explore going deeper.
Yes. Oh, that's exciting. Now, I don't know if I ever shared the story about my Akashic
No,
Records.
I don't think you did.
Oh, I did it.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I had my Akashic Records read sometime earlier this year, or was it last year? I think it was sometime last year. Like we were just talking about time. It's just a big blur.
I know. Like it is. It really is.
It was last year. And I learned about my soul origin. And I'm like, well, this makes a lot of sense. And I'm getting chills talking about it. So that's why I know it's kind of truth, or it is truth. So like I'm a star seed from the Andromeda galaxy.
Mhm.
And I've already ascended, apparently. And I've had many lifetimes. The recent lifetime I've actually had was here as a shaman in the 1700s in a tribe in Costa Rica. I was a male then. And it makes sense because I am a massage therapist and I love doing energy healing and energy work. And I'm all about that. And it makes sense that when she opened up my records for me, she talked about how it was my choice to come back here to help humanity ascend and help them waken up to who they truly are. And it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, man, is that why I had to struggle and go through whatever I was going through? Because I felt like I didn't belong. Like everything, like clarity, it just made so much sense. So, yes, audience, I would recommend contact Jennifer, please, because it was a life changer for myself. I finally discovered who I am and my purpose. Like I had an idea what my
Yeah.
purpose, but it was like confirmation, like, hey, this is your purpose. And then I'm going with it. And I just feel like I'm in a state of flow constantly. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I love that you shared that. That's so awesome. And imagine that times thousands, right?
Yes.
I mean, of experiences that you can get visibility to when you're working in your records. I'd love to just elaborate a bit on something that you said that was really important about you said that you kind of already knew your purpose, but that really validated things for you. And that's the case for all of us. Whenever we feel like we don't know why we're here and what we're being called to, we already have an idea if we're being honest with ourselves about what we're being drawn to. The only reason we question it is because of the deep ancestral and societal conditioning that exists that tells us that we can only achieve success or joy or prosperity or fulfillment if we do certain things. And that's not true. It's the opposite of actually who we are at a soul level. We are creator beings. And as humans, we have free will to literally create whatever reality we desire. And especially living in this time of great change that's happening in the world. If you're being called to something and you're like, am I crazy? You know, no one else is doing this. Understand that that's precisely the point. It's because you're being called to bring something forward where you're creating a new path to illuminate the way for others. So there is absolutely like nothing is off limits.
Oh, wow. Yes, it's so true. Now, can you actually go ahead and share a memorable or profound experience while accessing the Akashic records that actually helped one of your clients in clarity or healing?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
There's so many, huh?
there is. It's so interesting. So as a channel, I am able to everyone works a little bit differently, right? Like, there is no one person that that you can have an Akashic Records reading with or receive teaching from that is going to be exactly the same. And one of my innate gifts is that and this is beyond the records as well. I just have a gift for being able to tune into someone's energy, and I can actually see and feel their highest trajectory here, like the highest destiny, the purpose and mission that they're here to fulfill. So I can channel immediately what those blocks are and what the path is, what the blocks are, and help someone to understand, in their human self, right, what they can do to move forward. Because sometimes, being called to a greater vision, that imposter syndrome can come in. And so then we start feeling really overwhelmed, right? Because we look at where we're at today and it's like, how am I going to get there? And it's not really so much about the how, it's really just more about being willing to take the next steps, like take little steps, every day, and then more and more unfolds. It's a lot like what I was talking about on my own journey earlier, where I didn't know like where I was going to end up. I just knew that I couldn't live the life I was living like that anymore. And so I made the leap of faith. And then when I did that, a lot of other things unfolded. I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there, but like really important to emphasize that, right? Like we never know the whole path ahead. So one person comes to mind. She was, in a similar space, feeling the need to move on. But she had no idea really how to approach that or what that looked like. And through working with her in even one session, about probably halfway through the session, she had an immediate epiphany. Like she just felt like energetically something clicked. And she actually said that it was as if by magic, something opened up for her and everything fell into place. And she walked away from the session feeling really clear on what was next for her. And then she took the steps necessary to move forward. Another person, again, about halfway through a session, I speak often in my teachings and content around the importance of feeling truth in your body, right? Because again, we are all very heavily programmed and conditioned to believe that we need to look outside of ourselves for the solution. And there are times where it's beneficial to receive training and support, but most of the time, as I was saying with your purpose before, like you already know the answer. You're just questioning it because of how you've been taught to live, right? So this person I was working with had an intellectual understanding of, well, what does that truth feel like in my body? But she didn't feel it. And she literally said, after like halfway through our hour session, she said, I think you just changed my life in 25 minutes
Mm.
because I was able to lift something that was in her body that was blocking her from really feeling that groundedness, really feeling that knowing and that truth on her path. And I work with a lot of business owners as well. I've channeled lots of business offerings where they've turned around and created those offers and had clients sometimes even within hours of our session. Um, Basically, the more willing you are to be open to change and to be open to receiving, even if it doesn't feel possible for you now, the faster you're going to shift. Because we're humans and we have free will, sometimes you can say, oh, I'm ready for this, but your body may not be saying the same thing. And I can only work in the records within the frequency of truth and love, right? So, and with someone's free will consent. So if
Mhm.
someone, says that they're willing, but they're really not, there's resistance there, then not as much information or opportunity to shift is going to come through. So I can't say enough, like whether you're working in your records on your own or having someone else hold space for you in there, your willingness, your readiness is really important.
Yeah, the intention. It is life changing. It changed my life. As soon as I had clarity about who I am, my purpose, my soul purpose, where my soul came from,
Yeah.
it made my whole life made sense. I was like, wow, no wonder why I was in the car seat. My mom would always complain that as a baby, I was trying to get out of the car seat, like, oh, get me out, because I was starseed from Andromeda, and apparently I was looking everything up. I was doing my own research afterward, and they like freedom. They don't like to be constricted. They like to be free. And I'm all about freedom. And it just made so much sense. I'm like looking back to my childhood. I'm like, no wonder why I was like the black sheep of the family. I wanted to do
Well, yeah,
everything
and that's the
against
thing
that.
is, yeah, in our childhood as children, we are so much more free of those filters of like the density and the fear and all of those experiences, right? So we're so much more free as human children in our expression. And there's so much more, even beyond the one session that you had, right? So imagine how life-changing that was for you. And for example, if you decided to learn how to access your own records, imagine having access to something like that on demand in your life every day.
Yeah.
That whenever you want, you can connect with yourself at a soul level like that to heal yourself, to gain clarity on your path forward. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, it is. Now, how do you envision your work evolving in the future? Any any new projects or ideas that you're exploring?
Yeah, so I work in multidimensional realms even beyond the Akashic Records.
Awesome.
So I'm being called to expand more and more into that healing work. I do also have my own podcast, Path of the Awakened Heart, in which I often have other guests who are on a path less traveled as well. And I am working on channeling my first book. So I work with a lot of different higher frequency beings to bring information forward. And so I'm currently working on the first of what will be a series of books of channeled texts of wisdom teachings, essentially, that are coming forward to be shared with the masses, with a lot more people, with the intent of, as I think you said it earlier, it's with the intent of helping everybody remember who they really are and to really step into their power to create their own reality.
Yeah, break free from this prison planet that we're in. I feel so restricted all the time. Not anymore. I used to. I used to feel so restricted, but now my mind feels free, my soul feels free. I feel my body feels free. Yes, I do experience those aches and pains still as I'm still
Yeah.
navigating here on Earth, but I'm okay with it because I do take the action needed in order for me to feel better, like stretching, walking, slow movements.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's so important, right? It's like what you said about that's really important because if you're here, there's something else for you to learn. There's something else for you to experience. And also understanding that beyond learning, which is a big part of why we're here, it's also sharing our learnings, our wisdom, and connecting with others who are having the human experience here as well. And knowing that if you're still here, there's opportunity for all of that, right? Like otherwise we would be ascended in some other, in some other space, time, dimension, some other frequency of consciousness. And this journey, I'm just feeling guided to mention, emphasizing the importance of allowing yourself that joy, right? To maintain that as a significant part of your journey, because this journey of awakening, of remembering, can sometimes feel serious, you know?
Yeah, they have the, was it the Dark Night of the Soul experience as well?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
It can be, yeah, I've gone through a few of those actually, on my own journey. I actually have a couple of best-selling books that I've co-authored. Sacred Redesign, not Sacred Redesign, Sacred Silver Linings, that's what it is. I talk about that journey specifically in a chapter that I co-authored. But yeah, it can feel dark, it can feel serious. And knowing that, when it does feel like that, that the way forward is always through, is always in our willingness to see all facets, right,
Yeah,
of who we are.
that's right. Now, where can our listeners go ahead and find you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, the best place to go is my website, and that's jenniferspor.com. For those listening audibly, that's JenniferSpor. And you can find all the things on my site, my podcast, what we talked about today in the Akashic Records. You can go to the Work With Me section, and you'll see the drop down where the self-study course is and the sessions are if you're feeling guided to go deeper. And there's also lots of other free resources, lots of other podcast interviews and summits that I've done where I've talked about the Akashic Records. So lots to take in there.
That's awesome. And I will have everything in the show notes. Yes, I need to check out your podcast. You know, it's so funny because I have subscribed to your YouTube channel and it does pop up. I need to listen to an episode or two or three or four. Very, very intriguing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I appreciate so much you having me back. I really can't speak enough to how transformational, working in the Akashic Records has been for me, and then just as rewarding, choosing the path to teach the records as well, to, you know, get this into as many hands and hearts as we can. Because imagine, the 8 billion or so of us on the planet, if everyone had direct knowing and access to themselves every day at that level. Imagine how that could shift our reality here, our world, our whole world.
Oh, yes, our world would definitely be shifted for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for a last question, for someone new and is curious about the Akashic Records, what is one step they can go ahead and take today to explore this realm?
Yeah, I would rewind back to earlier in our conversation. If someone's wanting to explore the realm on their own, they can set the intention to do so with the parameters that I suggested putting into place. Just understanding how important it is to create an aligned space that I've outlined. If you decide to go in on your own, and only allowing in the highest frequencies of your keepers and guides and highest self to come in, because there are other lower ego-based energies, right, that exist. And so we have the free will to create our space, to how we want it. Beyond trying it out for yourself, right? I have a few on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I have several Akashic Record guided meditations that you can have direct access to if you want to have a guided journey. I have bringing forward more of your soul wisdom and gifts, releasing limiting beliefs. There's accessing your future self. There's a lot of different ones there. I also have a guided meditation on my website, Highest Destiny, where if you're someone who is feeling called, right, to deepen more into your purpose and mission here, that's a great journey to listen to. It's also channeled in the Akashic Records. I've actually had lots of people comment on that highest destiny meditation to say that they've listened to it several times, and every time they do listen to it, they have new insights and more expansion that they anchor into every time. So there's lots of resources and lots of, you know, ways that you can explore to familiarize yourself more with what it feels like to experience being in that space.
Amazing, Jennifer. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and your insights. I appreciate everything you do, and I really hope that the audience does take advantage of looking at your website, doing those guided meditations, because it is life-changing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Yes, always fun, always fun. Thank you so much, Jennifer.